Hey there, everybody. Welcome back. It's been a month off, but now we are here for the TSCN Wrestling update, which means TSCN Wrestling is indeed back upon us. I am your host, your commentator, your manager, Samuel Lewis, as we get into the swing of things once again. Little peeking behind the curtain, as usual, before we get into the storylines and things like that you guys will need to know. It was an interesting process, honestly, going from 2K 23 to 2K24, because for those of you that didn't, kind of realize what was happening, obviously a new WWE 2K game came out, this year's update, so I had to move the characters over, and I understand why they do this, especially given some of the things I had to do in this update, but they do not do a thing where it just goes, oh, you have files in this particular thing. I'm just going to let you port them over, and then you don't have to do jack diddly squat, because that's impossible. That's not going to happen with the way that these games are put together and stuff like that. A lot of the pieces that you get from the wrestlers are still intact, but it would be very complicated to put that all together, is what I'm going to say. So as a result, I totally get why they would not have just a simple port over mechanic. Unfortunately, what that means is that I had to essentially take every single one of the wrestlers that we have on our roster right now and remake them. Every single one of them has been remade from scratch. Now, the interesting thing about this is with these, they've upgraded the graphics. And as a result, some of our, I'm going to say all of our wrestlers, honestly, they've never looked better. The ones that I have more of a sway on, aka characters that I've played in video games and stuff like that, I may have done some reworking and stuff like that. There have been some interesting switches. One that, because secretly every one of our wrestlers has the move sets of other existing wrestlers, there are definitely some people that became powerhouses, and I'm very curious how that's going to pan out in how our wrestling matches go. So that's going to be fun to see how that goes, because after all, we do have a Rhea Ripley in our midst. So it is interesting to see one of the high numbers in there, although there's a couple of 80-somethings in the group too, so it's not like she's the only one, but it is interesting to see those things go the direction that they go and everything like that. So cool stuff. But yes, I had a lot of fun. I tried to essentially keep most of the people that aren't me in the same realm of what they looked like, simply because that's the stuff that they signed off on. But the characters that I have creative control of, that are people that I've played in games and stuff like that, on the other hand, I did kind of have some fun updating some looks, making people look a bit different. Part of the storyline, I'll tell you right now, is that Samara has decided that despite the fact they're a changeling, they're just going to stick to the women's division now. So they are no longer going to go over to the men's division and the women's division and do double duty, even though thanks to their changeling abilities, they can totally do that. But they're more comfortable in their feminine skin, so that's what they're going to stick with. Essentially, behind the scenes, it just means that I've got enough male wrestlers now to where I really don't have to rely on a gimmick like that to fill out the roster, so to speak. But it was a fun gimmick to work with while it lasted. But yeah, the default for that D&D character always was that they preferred like their feminine skin and just shifted into a guy whenever they needed to. So I'm reflecting that in the storyline now. So, but as a result, I've kind of given her a new look. All of the World of Warcraft characters and all that stuff, like all of those essentially got new looks and stuff like that. And it's really fun. There are a couple of really existing people that were some interesting things. A couple of wrestlers like so Danny, and Kevin had to get new move sets because their wrestlers weren't in the game anymore. I had to get a new move set because mine wasn't in the game. Mine was a bit uncomfortable because the joke that I'll go ahead and peel the curtain back. The joke was that I had Vince McMahon's moves because that was the being a manager situation, right? So that was the whole joke. Plus, at the time, they understandably have taken him out of the game this edition because of various stuff. You can dig it up if you want. We're not going to talk about that here. But essentially, because of that, I had to figure it out. And I went with another manager. I hope your guys' hearts don't get broken over it. Oh, well. Anyway, if you know, you know. If you know that reference, then you'll laugh. And if not, well, okay, whatever. You can figure it out or just accept it. But yeah, the point is that essentially it's going to look gorgeous. I'm going to love this new era of TSCN wrestling. And it's going to be, here in the 2K24 era of TSCN wrestling. So it's going to be fun. I've been fiddling around with some of the new matches. I'm definitely going to tell you guys right now, you're never going to find an ambulance match because it's one of those situations where the NPCs, because they have to make 2 checks, because it's one door and then the other door has to be closed too. And because they have to make those 2 checks and pass them, usually the bot will get that second check. And it's ridiculous. Now that I've done some stuff involving some other little tweak around things that made it almost impossible to play a certain mission in my Rise, I need to look back and see if that's still the case. But I may fiddle around with those settings and see if I can't make it workable. But for now, you're probably not going to see an ambulance match. A casket match, on the other hand. That's probably going to happen at some point. I mean, one of our wrestlers actually is our Undertaker, so we got to, right? And it seemed to work well with the test that I did. So I've been behind the scenes essentially testing a bunch of things to see what new stuff we can go with. So, yeah, fun things. But enough about that. Let's bring up the kayfabe and talk about the things going on. So obviously, we currently still have the women's tournament going on to see who will go against Sue for the women's belt, for the women's title, because she wants another challenger. So a tournament was started last season in order to get that going. So our first match of the coming episode will be that. The women's tournament match number 1 will be Jan Selly versus Sammy. So those two will get to fight against each other. Match number 2, for the sake of everything, I wanted you guys to kind of see all the wrestlers and kind of what we all look like and stuff like that in our newly upgraded stuff. So as a result, I am doing a everyone's here thing. I am pulling a page out of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and everybody is here. So as a result, we have 2 Battle Royale matches that night. Because the Battle Royales also allow for entrances, which means everybody can see all of the new shinies that are going on with all of this. So match 2 is an 8-woman Battle Royale. You've got Samantha, Kissa, Grace, Jolbert, Rebecca, Samara, Savis, and of course our champ herself, Sue, will also be involved in that Battle Royale. Match number 3 is our second women's tournament match. That will be Harani versus Tav. Very curious how that one's going to go out. Someone that is one of our tag team champions, obviously, going, and a person from Tamriel, going against someone from the Forgotten Realms. So it's a very fun matchup anytime you get to do stuff like that. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. Match number 4, Donovan versus Big Voice J. Yes, Big Voice J ended up becoming our champion thanks, as some will say, to Kent cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase. And making it to where it was a triple threat match. And Donovan's history with triple threat matches has not been the best, to be honest. I did get to talk to both Donovan and Big Voice Jay earlier this week as they are preparing for next week's festivities. Donovan said he didn't care that he wasn't getting a title match. Because this is not a title match for Donovan to try to get his belt back. Donovan just wants to prove that he could have beaten Big Voice Jay if Kent hadn't have gotten in the way. And Big Voice Jay, being the consummate professional that he was, said, "Of course, come at me." So, he's always one for a challenge, Jay, and Donovan is always one to be there to try to prove that he is the best. So we will see just which person prevails. Ought to be a good match. Then match number 5 will be the 8-man Battle Royale. We'll have Shay, Jacob, Will, Amos, Bill, Danny, Kevin, and Michael will all have an 8-man Battle Royale showdown to see who wins that one. So we'll see how that one goes. And then finally, match number 6, we have a fatal 4-way match. Essentially, Samuel was sitting in his office and he said, "No, everybody needs to be here. And in order to make this happen, I'm not just going to have the final 3 just fight each other as if they are something that is cast off to the side. Since Battle Royale matches can only be up to 8 people, at least in this game, I think they can be higher and other stuff. Now let's pull the curtain back. I honestly can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen a Battle Royale. But in the game, you can only do 8-person Battle Royales. So as a result, we couldn't just put everyone that wasn't in a match in the Battle Royale. Otherwise, it would have been gorgeous, but we can't do that. So as a result, a fatal 4-way has been put together with Renegade, Kent, and Crudge, as well as Samuel. Now, obviously, a lot of people are looking at this match and saying, but Renegade and Crudge are literally on the same team. How is it actually fair for that? Well, we're going to have to see as it is. I talked to them a little bit, and their leader, Will, who very much wanted to get involved in this conversation, even though it didn't even involve his match, said that he encourages his people to be competitive and that them being on the same team shouldn't be an issue at all. So we'll see if that holds up. Will, he's always got a mouth on him. So that's it. That is all of our matches. It's going to be 6 matches instead of the normal amount that we normally have, which means it's probably going to be an extra long show. But we wanted to give you that because we took a month off. I did, again, I'll pull the curtain back a little bit. I talked to Jacob about it. I was like, "Are you okay with us doing a longer than normal episode because we, took a month off?" And he was totally up for it. So we get to have the fun of everyone being there, you getting to see all of the upgrades, and I've got some other people that I'm working on in the wings. Trust me, the creation side of things has not stopped. I may have to boot some people in the butts to give me some information, but otherwise, I've got some more people to build, because hilariously enough, I had not thought about this, and I'd built some characters that didn't get to premiere, but were in the previous game. There is also a whispering, if I'm understanding the things correctly, that somebody from Raw might be coming to TSCN Wrestling. Someone that started her own independent promotion and then went to Raw, but might be coming to TSCN Wrestling. But, that's TBD. Those of you that watched me play it the first night know exactly who I'm talking about. And if you don't, you might find out. Or this doesn't pay off at all if I don't understand the MyRise export feature. So it may not pay off at all, and I may just be talking out my butt. But either way. That's what it's going to be. I am so excited to bring you guys TSCN Wrestling again. Longer episode than normal of the wrestling update, but there was a lot to cover. So I love you guys, and the next episode of TSCN Wrestling will be April the 26th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, as usual. So until next time, stay wrestling, guys, and I'll see ya. If you want to find all of the previous episodes, head on over to tscn.tv/wrestling. tscn.tv/wrestling, that is where you can catch up before the new season starts. Love you guys. TSCN is brought to you by Stephen Cogswell. If you want to find your name in the credits, head on over to tscn.tv/support and support us at the $5 level. And thank you for your support.
This has been a production of the Samcast Network. TSCN.TV. What's your passion?
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.